All right, very good. I would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of the Digital Transformation Summit 2021. We welcomed you all for the super exciting session on reimagining businesses, leveraging automation tools and technology. I would like to thank our title partner, Accenture, track partner, Automation Anywhere, cloud communication partner, Root Mobile, knowledge partner, PwC, and bronze partner, Tata Teleservices. I would like to welcome the moderator, Mr. Sumeet Pathak, Digital Evangelist Automation Anywhere, Mr. Arvind Ronta, Head of Products, India and South Asia, Visa, and Mr. Umesh Mehta, Chief Information Officer, Jubilant Pharmova Limited. Mr. Sharad Kumar Agarwal had joined but had to leave for some medical emergency. Now I would request all the delegates to keep posting their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few. Over to you, Mr. Sumeet.
Thank you, Manmeet. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and keeping safe, and your loved ones are also safe. As we know, we're supposed to be 4 of us. Right now, we are 3. I think Sharad had to jump out of this panel because of medical emergency. The topic here for us today is reimagining business, leveraging automation tool and technology. Just want to set a context before I get into a conversation with Arvind and Umesh. See, from Automation Anywhere perspective, if I can just bring what we are seeing from our customers. So we got 40,000, we got some presence in 90 plus countries, as we have seen, right? And what we have learned is specifically now in India, that last year we thought that there is this wave which will basically abate. And then we saw a lot of organizations are coming through and they are adopting digital transformation. And this wave had impacted them differently. You could be, for example, we basically, channelized our customers into 3 different buckets. We said the industries which needs to be efficient, like life sciences, healthcare, government, and ministry, because they had to respond in a different way. They were more into the front line. They had to work towards, there was like spike in all their requirements, right? So how do they basically reimagine their business in that particular situation and then depend on the technology to help come over that particular curve? And then the second category was of survival, right? Like there are certain industries like hospitality, airlines, small and medium business enterprises. They had to be saved literally for, they had an issue of survival. So how do they basically, because their top line is shrinking, how do you help them to manage their bottom line, right? How do you ensure that they're able to look at the new business models to come forth? And then third one was more for the financial and insurance industry, like bank and insurance, to make sure that they run smoothly, because it's very important from the customer's perspective as well, right? Like as you remember last year, there was a mandate from RBI to have a 6 months stretch moratorium on paying EMI, right? So how do you basically support banks like these with such request so that they're able to respond to the customer's need? And we thought that, okay, we are out of the woods, but as it looks like that we have, with this second wave, we are far more deeper into the woods. We are seeing that there is, this economic as well as humanitarian impact more so now than ever. While organizations have to look both ways, they have to also ensure that the lights are on, there is livelihood is being taken care of, and also to ensure that there is no risk to their employees as well. And if I can just continue to stay, this time last year, we did a survey, and I would like to then bring this particular context into this panel on how they are seeing that now in the light as we are in this situation. See, when we did the survey with 4,000 plus customers, what came about from the strategy perspective and reimagining the organization was they were looking for solutions which could help them to increase the productivity and reduce the operational cost. So they go hand in hand, right? There was also focus on increasing the business resilience, right? In terms of what is the new normal versus now normal, right? New normal we thought was last year, but now it's just stretching as we keep going by 2 weeks. So every day is a new normal for us. It's like now normal, right? So how do you basically work in that particular situation? How do you build the resiliencies? And third and fourth one is, how do you basically diversify your revenue stream? How do you ensure that there is ways to basically bring the money in the organization full stop, right? Because if there is a challenge out there, and keeping this in mind, what all technologies will help them to achieve that, right? So this is what needs to be done and then how needs to be done, right? So few things which few technologies which came out clearly out there was, RPA was one, with 48% of the surveys responded saying RPA combination with the intelligent automation is something which they are basically embracing to go through those particular points which I just spoke about. Analytics and big data was also quite high up there. They want to make sure that they understand the trends and the patterns, and they work run faster and ahead of the curves rather than being a bit more reactive. And then there are other technologies which falls into the mixed bucket, right? So those were the things. And then if we focus on the workforce, that was another big area which was basically looked at, that it's very important that we cross-skill the workforce. So when you're reimagining the business, you cannot have the same set of people having the same set of skills. How do you basically ensure that the skills are cross-pollinated? So the organizations and the employees within the organizations are able to do multiple tasks as a result of it. So overall, four things which came out very strongly was continue digitization, enhance productivity, accelerate automation, and upskill the workforce. That's what we saw in month of March, April, May last year. Okay. Now let me come to our panel and to the panelists, right? So Arvind, if I have to come to you, right, and see like what you thought last year, right, in terms of where we are, the changes you brought in, how those preparations which you made from the digital transformation perspective, right, have those changes held you in good stead? Are you able to rely on them, or things are completely different and you're reimagining again using technologies again? So it would be good to know from your perspective.
Thanks, Sumeet. Digital transformation for us has been a long journey. And just to put things in context, I think COVID, even the first wave, accelerated that for a whole bunch of industries, including ours in financial services. And immediately, what we saw in COVID or post-COVID, when we were coming out of the first wave, we were able to normalize growth in domestic spends. When it comes to e-com, we were actually doing better than pre-COVID. So e-commerce volumes were actually far more than was from when benchmarked to January 2020 levels, right? So that was very positive. The second is we saw high growth, well, high recovery in domestic, but cross-border took a lot of beating, right? Because cross-border transactions, you couldn't travel abroad, like bunch of countries were in a lockdown mode. As of 2 months ago, I think that recovery has held steady. We had seen a higher salience or a higher share of e-commerce transaction in all the transactions we see in our network in India. Higher proportions were happening on e-com. That pendulum swung back to offline payments or card present transactions, as we call it. And they were literally evenly split between e-commerce and offline. And now with lockdown happening again, of course, we can expect that more transactions will happen online before the lockdown comes off. So I think the ups and downs have happened, but to your point on, has it been sustainable? Absolutely, it has. I mean, like we haven't seen like some consumer trends, for example, right? Like there are more people who are now transacting online. They're paying bills online. They're doing e-commerce or buying groceries online. That's all net new, and people have stuck with that behavior, even post-COVID, right? So that's positive. On the employee front, I think some of the trends we saw and how we operated internally, we were, of course, very driven by face-to-face meetings and face-to-face interaction. While remote meetings happen, I think they have happened much more. They accelerated over times and have actually sustained ever since. We've actually organized our teams in ways in which we can prioritize and reimagine how we engage all remotely. The full workforce is actually remote for the last 1.5 years. and we haven't missed a beat. There's so much happening, as you know, in financial services. So that's been good momentum, and I think we believe we can sustain onto this even going forward.
Thank you, Arvind. I'll come back to you right after connecting with Umesh, that how you're adjusting when the pendulum is swinging, it like offline then online then offline. So how are you basically managing from behind? So Umesh, same question to you as well. Life sciences under tremendous stress, and first of all, thank you for all the great work you are doing to basically help us in this situation. So how are you seeing your industry responding to this? What you thought at last year as compared to now, how the business is completely reimagined, how technology has played part into that.
So first of all, thank you AIMI and Sumeet for having me on this session. Okay, so we at Jubilant, we were prepared for this. So already when this thing started, that okay, we're going to have a lockdown starting from March. So we were some kind of prepared because we have a digital transformation roadmap through which we have adopted cloud long back, where all our critical applications were on the cloud, and we could do that. The only thing what we did when the pandemic hit and the lockdown was for us. So what we did, we had given all our desktop laptops, we enabled a remote VPN connection, which was already there, part of these things. So already people were using these applications. But we extended. The only thing what we had to do was to increase our bandwidth because there was no more network connections from outside to the network. So in a way, our strategy, cloud first strategy, helped because all our critical applications were up and running. Being part of the pharmaceutical, we are into B2B business, and our operations comes under essential services. So not a single day our plants were stopped. So we could manage that. Yes, but definitely there was more. I would say the demand for digitization actually increased during that. Some of the processes which were manual, or so we automated those processes also in between. People, when the pandemic hit, people were not actually, they were hesitant to touch the papers also. So there was no paper movement also. So
Yeah.
and we had solutions, but the adoptions of those solutions actually fast tracked. We were having those the scanners at the gate where once the document is scanned, then it goes around different functions and departments. But the adoption was low. But then with this pandemic, it helped us increase the adoption of these digital solutions. That is one thing which happened, and there was more demand. So today, if we see, it's our plates as a CIOs are full in terms of the digitization or automation of the processes, and we are doing it. But as far as our operations are concerned, in fact, they are up and running, and everybody is working. Whoever we could not give laptops, also they moved to their native places. So we had given them the virtual desktops so that they can use the virtual desktops to connect to our enterprise systems from their personal computers also. So, and all those technologies we implemented, we already have that VPN and multi-factor authentication because the risk also increased during the pandemic because most of our people were coming from home and connected to our enterprise network. So all those technologies we had in place, and we could sustain, and it is continuing, I would say. And during the pandemic, we could launch 2-3 new product lines also. It's not so the remdesivir one, which is very these days. So we got the license from Gilead, and we started manufacturing that. We also started manufacturing our sanitizers from. So new business lines and the coming, and the business growth is strong for us.
No, thank you, Umesh. I think so. It's interesting. Both of you spoke from two aspects, from customer side as well as, I think, Umesh, you also spoke a bit more on the staff enablement perspective by having the distributed workforce, right? So and I will touch back again later on the omni-channel perspective. I mean, we were having a conversation before this, right? But if I have to go behind the scenes, right, because that's where, from automation perspective, we see that a lot of heavy grunt work takes place. In your respective industries, you have seen this spike, right? I think from life sciences pharma perspective as well, and from financial services as well. Now, how have you been able to manage that spike? What transformation you brought in? Because let me give you an example. Like from automation perspective, we have seen that the digital worker is being used to basically create the capacity for some non-value added activity which is coming through, right? So while the spike is high, you basically bring the automation in, and that automation helps to basically take that load off, so that you create the capacity for your staff to basically focus on more critical things or new business lines or revenue models which are coming through, right? So if I can go, Arvind, with you first, what changes have you have foreseen or you've made within the organization to respond to that spike? And then Umesh, I'll come with you as well for the same question.
It's a great question. So, I mean, the reality is we didn't plan for digital spike in last few months. Like digital transformation, at least in our organization, I'm sure it's for most organization, has been a multi-year journey, right? So from a capacity standpoint, we already had capacity to take these volumes. It's to what Umesh is saying, it's the adoption really happened, accelerated. Because these products existed, infrastructure existed at capacity, but we never utilized full capacity because the adoption wasn't at scale. I think it accelerated that adoption. So that's point one. Point two is that, a lot of commerce today in India specifically is epified, right? Like these APIs driven commerce, as you can imagine. Like a lot of these fintechs are now plugging into infrastructure of Visa or infrastructure of what the regulator has created, like regulatory sandbox, to try some new experiments, or infrastructure of the banks, or infrastructures that exist in open data in India. So a lot of this acceleration of digital is also powered by these fintechs. And India has had a great surge, as you know, of fintechs and unicorns and what you might. But there's been across sectors, not just in payments, but also insurance, also risk and fraud, and so on. And that has actually helped us get to the endpoints of customers, right? So if you think of an organization like Visa, the scale at which we operate is massive. Like we see, close to 70, 80,000 transactions per second. Like, so that's the scale at which we operate. But how do you get those many transactions? So I think a lot of these fintechs became enabler who were starting to connect to the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that we've been laying down for several years. And that got utilized in literally in steroids, like with how people started transacting. And this story was just not online. Like of course, we saw a lot of e-commerce growth, and as I said, much higher growth and much higher levels of e-commerce than we were pre-COVID. But even in offline, like when you go to a store and in-store transactions, you saw people making transactions using contactless. We had 2 times the penetration in contactless transaction than a year and a half ago. So a lot of that, thanks to the RBI's positive actions on this, thanks to industry coming together, people wanted to do more touchless transactions, right? Because of COVID and hygiene factor all playing in. But what we see is our studies have shown that, more people go for contactless, for example. They start replacing cash transactions with card or digital transactions in those use cases of fuel or groceries and so on. So we've seen a very positive adoption curve on all of this. And from a capacity standpoint, as I said, we were all prepared. It was nice to get this momentum. That's probably the positive side of this bad pandemic, was that the switch to digital accelerated.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come to you on. So, from what you've spoken about is great. There has been a huge adoption from the end user perspective to basically, embrace digital channels. But would like to understand how that has impacted your call center staff. Like, what technology did you provide with them to go through this surge, right? Because they will be at the receiving end. They're first timers who are going. The questions would be basic, right? And how have you basically helped them? So, I'll come with you on that question. Umesh, if I can ask you, right? So what we have seen with our customers is that they are looking for the procurement perspective, right? They are looking at completely low touch to no touch entire value chain, right? And just in case versus just in time delivery, right? Within as you spoke about that, you've been able to now produce remdesivir injection and the other ones as well. Uh, what the changes in the procurement side would have been uh, a bit much. How did you go about it? Did you utilize any digital technology to get over the curve? Would be good to understand that.
So it is more of one is that existing technologies, other is the collaboration piece which actually kicked in. Okay, so with the Zooms and the teams of the world, so that also helped us in executing these projects. Okay, so and today if you see. There is a productivity improvement in my team. It is around 20-25% productivity improvement using these tools. People are sitting at our team members are sitting at home, but they are able to deliver better and faster because they save time. Okay, so but yes, there is some overhead on their personal life, but yes, they are available. And they ensure that these deliveries have to happen during a particular agreed time. So these are the things which include. So and now for this adoption of this collaboration tools like Zoom, earlier our engineers were called to set up a Zoom meeting. Within a day, so it changed. So now everybody in the company they know how to set up a call or how to set a Zoom meeting invite or
Yeah.
Teams meeting invite and how to collaborate that. In Teams we can attach files. Within no time they learned this trick, and now most of our teams collaboration is happening through these collaboration platforms. They are updating their files, they're working on common files, they're updating, and then they are also collaborating not only internally, they are collaborating with their partners also, our partners also. So be it on the customers or vendor side. So that's how it actually is. And creating that ecosystem on the supply chain also, because everything none of us have been to office for more than 1 year now, so everything is happening from home through using these digital tools, collaboration tools.
Yeah. No, thank you. I don't know where my gate pass is. I don't know if I've lost it or not. So, but you're right, and we'll come to that. How you're basically the upskilling and cross-skilling of staff is helping to get up the curve. And so we have got a couple of questions, and I'll request the audience to please post more questions here. Would be great for this session to be interactive. But before we get to that, right, Arvind, my question over to you. See, from Automation Anywhere perspective, we have learned one thing that since last 1 year, we have been at home, right? So, and we have been using our smart devices, and we all have gotten used to using this and the way it responds, right? Doesn't matter who am I connecting with. Okay, my experience has to be the same what I experience with the channel I'm communicating, right? Now, as a result of that, a lot of processes at the back have to be digitized to respond to that swiftly. It also includes having the agent over the call having more smarter and faster and quicker response. And as a result of this, we came with a product called RE, which is Automation Anywhere Robotic Interface, which is automation for the automated bots, which gives you a beautiful GUI. And when an agent is on a call, when speaking with a customer, they've got all this important information in front of them, so they don't have to toggle between the screens, don't go back and forth. They have the smart information. They can connect with the customer, do first call resolution, reduce the average handling time, and do cross-selling. Right? Now, if I bring that scenario within your area of work, right? Do you have a view on how the call center space, the front office space was also reimagined, knowing that there will be spike in the adoption of digitization?
Yeah, so the model we operate in is B2B2C. So we support banks. Banks ultimately, they have, call center staff who would be taking on consumer, cardholders call. So I know that they did, there was a lot of business process reengineering. A lot of the largest banks have gone through in last 1 year, and digital has been the core central tenet of that, transformation. On our side, I think when we look at end consumer, I think there's been much more focus on consumer awareness. and helping banks get educated or be able to or equip the banks to communicate how to use the product, why online is better, why digital is better, what is the value proposition. I think we've spent a lot more time on that. And I think it's been good because it has held to those sticky behaviors. So even after, you know, the COVID restrictions were lifted, we did not see immediate fall back to physical commerce. So that was good. So the other bit is that we continue to roll out what are the product platform benefits that consumers would care about, right? So think about this: if more transactions happen online or on digital, for someone in tier three, tier four cities, I think they're still worried about online fraud. So you start thinking about what could be going in the minds of people who are still on the fence of they should stick with digital or not. So things like fraud insurance, things like we've got like this whole cyber security fraud checks. Like we've got partners who are scanning in dark web if your financial credentials are being sold or not sold, or if there's any red flag, they'll immediately notify you or the bank. So that gives extra convenience and whatnot. I think so. A lot of transformation at the consumer level has happened at that end. For the support staff has really been at the banks that I'm not privy to the details
No,
of how to think about it.
no,
But
thank you, Arvind. That gives a good perspective as well in terms of how educating the end customer is equally important for them to embrace the digital channels. So certainly, indeed. Now we have a couple of questions. Umesh, I'll come to you. The first question for you is: what were the challenges you faced while launching the two new product lines that you mentioned about earlier? Very relevant, good question.
Yeah. So frankly speaking, Sumeet, we did not face any challenge except for the physical presence. That too, also when we had to do some in the lockdown period, our engineers or our scientists, they had to come to site to do some testing. So those was the time and where we had machines which were there, or the applications which were attached to those machines. So there they had to be present and they had to do the experiments and take the results. That's the only challenge we had, but then we could overcome that by providing facilities within our R&D labs for our scientists to work there 24/7. Okay, rest all the applications, all the infrastructure was made available to them, and that's how actually we could complete these projects. Other than that, I think it was all digital, whether it is customer side or vendor side. So we could manage through our digital assets. Okay, as we say that as we have all our enterprise applications or critical applications on cloud, they are available remotely also. So that physical presence during the lockdown period was the only challenge for our plants. And fortunately, since we come under the essential services, so we were given special passes for people to travel to these work locations. And as I said, that none of our plants, whether it was in Gajraula or in other locations where we started manufacturing our sanitizers, so the workforce was there, production was on, and still today, so we run on 3 shifts in all our manufacturing units.
So you're being very humble about it, Umesh. I think you prepared really well that you could then take, you can leverage that and then respond to the new needs. So I think that preparation itself and thinking through itself is quite commendable, right? So I wish that is the situation with all the other pharmacy, the life sciences and pharmaceutical companies there, so that we all get benefited out of it.
And
Yeah.
Sumit, not only this, we also actually demerged one of our entities from the Jubilant Life Sciences. So we were Jubilant Life Sciences, and our name changed to Jubilant Pharmova, and then one of our chemical business was demerged during this period. So all the preparation work for a new entity, a listed entity, which we listed on 1st of February, so was done remotely.
Looks like very, very busy period for you, but then digitization really helped you to sustain that time. Arvind, there's a question for you as well. If I can read it out for you. Yes, do you think the customer trust factor will lose relevance or can be sustained by other means with business transforming their strategies from physical customer interaction to digital? You want me to read it again or just maybe just let me break it down for you? So I think it's about the trust factor when you're moving from physical to digital, right? This the interaction is there. Does that have an impact on the trust factor for customers?
Yeah, I think there is a, no, that's why I was touching on this whole thing on, um, this whole consumer awareness. So India is a big digital story, but we still have a long way to go because there's still more work to be done on increasing consumer trust on digital overall, right? Like in digital overall, and I think that's been a big focus for RBI. Just to give you guys context, India, we have $1.6 trillion of personal consumption expenditure, right? So of this, 94% or so is cash and checks. So only 6% is truly digital, right? So you could argue a lot of these payment flows or transaction flows.
I don't know, I missed you on that number. Do you mind repeating that? It's interesting facts. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got like $1.6 trillion in overall personal consumption expenditure, right? So for $2.5 trillion economy, we have $1.6 trillion of personal consumption expenditure. Of that, really around 90+% is all cash and checks.
Still.
So that's huge, right? So huge opportunity for us to, while we have made progress with a lot of digitization on cards or UPI wallets, we've still a long way to go. And simple fact is that a lot of people still don't understand, and because they don't understand, there's a fear factor or lack of trust factor of going digital. And I think that puts an onus on industry. The regulator is of course pushing that hard. RBI has got so many initiatives to drive consumer awareness, as you probably see in middle of the IPL ads when it was on, right? Like how you should think about, when you're about your financial information, what you should give or what you should not share. So, is there a way, a sustainable model to retain a customer trust? Absolutely. I don't think. I mean, like, see, the good thing is just like in Umeshji's example, like a lot of this work was not done overnight. Like consumer awareness, trust issues, we've been working it for years. But now, of course, because of this acceleration of to digital, we are more, I guess, aware to accelerate the awareness efforts. So there's a bunch of work we are still doing with our e-commerce partners on how to educate people to make first-time online transactions. So if you have a mom and dad and they're in a city stuck, which is a lockdown, they can't go out to pay the bills. Previously, they would do it themselves. Now they're asking, sending WhatsApp messages or asking you to pay by Google Pay or having done it once or twice. Now they're also trying to do it themselves. In my example, I have a mother who stays with me here. She sees that I'm ordering online on a Big Basket app, and she's like, "Why don't you teach me?" So I've taught her how to use Google Pay. I've taught her how to use Phone Pay, and I'm gonna teach her how to order groceries online. So see, even that, like the parents are coming onto this fold, and I think as they get aware, trust factor will take care of itself.
Funny you say that, Arvind. Same issue, same story with my father. I asked him to start using the digital channel, and this is 3-4 years back, and he said, "Well, I don't have to. I got someone who can go and make the payment and buy things, right?" But from that concept to now completely being independent, buying things and booking Ubers, Olas of the world, and it's complete transformation that has taken place. It's
Sumeet,
interesting.
I want to add.
Please,
So,
Umesh.
see, though we are mainly into B2B business, but we have two SBUs where we have B2C also. So till February, we were 100% offline, okay, interactions with the customers. Okay, but then post the pandemic, it was 100% online interactions. Though we did some reskilling of our workforce in the field, how to conduct those meetings, send a template, okay, background, all those things we conduct. But now we were started thinking that, okay, now we actually started from January, February, we started some meetings online also, on offline, sorry. So after this pandemic thing gets over, we plan to have 30% still meeting online. So the model is going to change. It will not go back to 100% offline. So
It's been a mixed environment. Yes.
yes, that's what, because now people see that, okay, online also can deliver or also has a value. So why not? Instead of
Yeah.
going to the customer, it saves time, it saves money. So and you get a better this thing, or same or similar output. So why not to have that? So those models are also will change.
Yeah. Look,
Similarly, on the workforce side also. So now people know that, okay, last 1.5 years we have been able to do or carry out our work sitting from home. Okay, so why not explore that? So
And just
we,
on that one, I totally agree. I think these changes are not going away.
yeah.
I think both on consumer impacts or employee workforce impact, I think we've gotten used to in last 1.5 years, we've adapted completely or massively to this new shift. If had it been like a 3 month or 4 month phenomena, we might have gone back to the old ways. I mean, like we are looking at not just how to get back to the workforce, back to office, and how that looks like, but we're also looking at like what the next new model of working is, right? So it's gone from that transitionary thing to more sustainable long term thing, from a workforce planning and same with customer impacts.
Yeah. No, it looks like you both stole my question. My next question was this, that, up until now, we spoke about in the past and the present, learning from the past and then applying that in the present. What is the future looking like? Like from the CIOs and CDOs desk, right? What you guys are looking at, the trend that will come through, and what sort of programs and projects you're gonna work on. For example, I will give you some trends which we saw. So, for example, we have customers in China as well. We saw that there is a huge spike in demand for the cars, right? Because now post-pandemic, people don't want to use the public transport. They want to start using their own transportation, right? As a result of it, what is happening is that you have people buying cars. The car companies are getting super busy, so they are basically changing their models of the operation side. They're using bots and digitization to respond to such needs, right? Similarly, from the user perspective, from the from user perspective, you see the trends are changing. It has changed, right? You're saying it will remain as there. What are the next immediate things which you are looking to ensure that there is sustainability in terms of any new situations, any other black swan events coming in your way?
See, so three things. I think one, because as digital proliferates, I think it'll create more endpoints of interaction. So there'll be more transactions and there'll be more vulnerability from a security standpoint. So I think it'll be super important that focus on security, fraud management, and use of some of these machine learning and AI algorithms is point one, right? Like that is a lasting trend. Second is consumers are now much more demanding. So they're going to demand more relevance, more contextualization of all payment experiences or transactional experiences, right? So if you're gonna, if you're pitching them an offer which is completely out of space and out of time and out of context for them, where they're simply going to tune you off as a business. So how the push towards omni-channel contextual commerce is a very real trend, and I think it's only accelerated because of this. On the small business side, I think there's another trend which we are seeing is where both the digitization and credit expansion for small businesses is taking a foothold. So what I mean by that is the Kirana store guy first didn't care to go digital and put his inventory on Google or PhonePe. Now companies like Google Pay, PhonePe, WhatsApp, they're making it easier for them to take this inventory and put it up online. So just like through WhatsApp, to check the inventory, you can actually buy it and pay it right from a WhatsApp channel or PhonePe or
Yeah.
Google Pay. that is digitization to a whole another level. And then if you take another aspect of the small businesses, I have working capital requirements. Can I get working capital loan against my cash flow? So they don't have typically huge balance sheet to ask for loans and whatnot. But this whole thing was also going on where cash flow based lending is taking off on the backs of some of the fintechs who are taking good advantage of the open data framework that has been created in India, where you could do more diligence on a small business, you could see real transactions and use that to underwrite some of these small business for some of the working capital loans. So a lot of this thing, I think, is both on the consumer and small business is going to be really important to expand the economy, which I think is going to be sustainable over a long period of time.
It looks like that your microfinance will become more tech-based, supported by fintech, because you got your open data, you got more intelligence to have better underwriting, and then looking at having more secured sort of loans provided, right? So that's really interesting. There's a question here. It is for anyone to take. I'll read out the question. To compensate for the market loss last financial year, what work strategies and technologies you think will be implemented and adopted in the post-pandemic world? I think, Arvind, we just spoke about this, I think, in future trend. Umesh, do you want to throw some light on this one?
Yes, Sumit, though we did not have any impact on our business, okay.
So I
Our
need to
business was
understand your
strong.
formula. It's amazing. It's like it's like you've taken some dose of bacteria.
Our performance has been strong, and the pipeline is also looks very good. Okay, so you can look at all the pharma, the shares of all pharma companies going north. Okay, so but yes, I think what an organization can do is to reduce cost. Okay, and come up with the adoption of more digital technologies, improve productivity, reduce cost, and improve quality by use of technology. Okay, so like your automation, the RPA. Okay, so wherever they can reduce the cost by automating or digitizing these processes, and better customer experience. So these are the things I think companies they can stay afloat by adopting digital technologies and compensate on the market losses which they have made during the pandemic. That's what my take.
No, thank you, Umesh. Thank you. If I have to ask, right, from your side of the table, right, if what are the things from the digital transformation perspective which one should not do? See, what we spoke about till now, your experiences in terms of how you've been able to learn from the past, react quickly on it, adopt, and then sustain, right? What is that you would advise to our audience from your desk, from the CIO's desk, that they should not look at? For example, we should not look at 3 years horizon now for any digital transformation. 3 years is too long a period now, right? So any thoughts, points on that one, that would be great.
So I think one is that we should not blindly go behind the technology. I'm giving from the manufacturing or pharma perspective. Okay, so one should not go blindly with technology. There are many new technologies are there, but then one has to see whether this technology is useful for me or not, what kind of ROI it is going to get, what outcomes it will bring. So these are the things which we have to evaluate and not going blindly behind the technology. So today, as you rightly said, nobody talks about 3 years. You forgot about 3 years. Nobody is talking going beyond 1 year. So it has to have an ROI less than 1 year. Then only the projects are given. As such, there is the crunch. Okay, so we have to prioritize. So we prioritize based on the ROIs and the outcomes. What outcomes it is going? Is it going to impact my customer? Is it going to impact my quality of the product? Okay, is it going to reduce my the cost of my product? So these are the things which the boards are looking for. Okay, so only then we get a go ahead from boards to go and adopt those technologies.
Yeah, thank you, Umesh. Arvind, you want to throw some light on this, please?
You know, I can maybe give a product view to this. From a product standpoint, I feel like there has to be a mindset shift from a product mindset to a more solution-oriented mindset. And what I mean by that is, you know, typical approach in the past used to be like, this is the product, this is how it has to be pushed. Let's drive distribution through better pricing, coverage, and maybe a standardized product experience. I think what has been very clear in the India context, that the way digital is growing and will grow and has grown in the past 1 year, the amount of use cases and amount of fragmentation of different experiences that it has that has allowed so much of digitization to happen. It's important that there's not a product push mentality, but being very in, having that ingenuity of how do I take a solution approach and maybe stitch multiple products to deliver a use case or solve a problem. So that I think was always known, but I think is becoming more relevant now. And then second is also things to do is listen to the customer and actually be more perceptive of some of these um, consumer trends and the impacts, because it's not anymore about what consumer is asking for. It's about what consumer is going through. So if you start thinking of like, what is my customer going through? Then even if they are not asking you a few things, you as a product lead or the technology lead should think of what are the anticipated scenarios of things that they could be asking for, given what they are going through right now. And I think it just changes the complete dimension of the scale of impact what it has had on our lives, work life or personal lives, that it begins to ask very different ways in how we should think of product design, bringing new products to market. Like I think it will transform quite a bit even in coming months and years.
I think it's very profound, Arvind. It's thinking about what going through as compared to asking. I think this is something I'll pass it on in automation anywhere as well. There's an interesting thing to reflect upon. And both of you spoke about the way I call it is value centric. Like when I was in the corporate space, this 2 years back before I joined automation anywhere, the idea of providing the whole idea was to basically provide this solution to the stakeholders, and it was not about just digitizing for the sake of digitizing, right? It was keeping a problem in mind, understanding what that problem will help the customer and stakeholder, and then think backwards on how do you solve it, right? So, and in doing so, you'll require different sets of technology, including RPA, AI, and the sorts. But it was never about building bots for the sake of building bots, and I think that's very important. Once you understand that the true value for which you're basically working, it could be any for that matter, right? So it's really key. So we've got just 3 to 4 minutes. So I will ask our audience to ask a few more questions, if you can, please. In the meantime, let me. We spoke about the technology. We spoke about the past. Reskilling is something I want to bring. Now, Umesh, you spoke about reskilling from training on, say, for example, the collaboration tool. But is your organization also thinking about, for example, the finance department, the audit departments, and all? Are you basically upskilling these guys to become a bit more digital native? It would be
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as we speak, we are exploring solutions, automation. So we're talking to your company also regarding the three-way auto matching, which is a very, I would say, very first use case of any automation, three-way matching of invoices. We recently actually launched our business services also, the shared services, where we are now, so these the account for the accounts payable and accounts receivable. So for in those areas, we are looking at, okay, so we already set up a team, okay, who's taking care of our accounts receivable and accounts payable processes. And as of now, what we have done is it was a lift and shift kind of a thing. So now the things have stabilized, okay, over a period of 8 to 10 months. So now we are thinking of automating those processes so that they can have better productivity and they can handle more load. Okay, so upskilling of the business service team is in our mind, and we are talking to companies like Automation Anywhere to bring And not only the APAR, in fact, the entire finance processes, we have hired consultants, okay, to come and help. Okay, what more automation or what benefits we can give. We've taken out an RFP for all the finance processes.
Yeah.
Come and study and tell us that okay, what we can do, how we can improve the productivity of all these processes.
Yeah, no, it's
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to know, right? So I think what we have seen, irrespective of whatever industry you are in, these areas, be finance, be HR, be audit, right? These are really good areas where a lot of manual work happens, and you can apply digital solutions to take away that particular pain. And what we're also seeing is that there is this invisible finance trend among our customers, where they want to close the books real time. And it's not about doing 6 monthly and quarterly. And if you're able to do real time, that means your data is digitized. If that is data digitized, that means you understand the trend faster. If you understand the trend faster, you can react and be ahead of the market, right? So it's like entire value chain which goes into that. One thing, we have one more question. We'll take that, and I think Arvind, that's for you. If I got this right, it says that your insights on redefining industry solutions with 5G and the cloud. How do you plan to adopt these technologies?
I think in short, there is a trend we are seeing. Banks and we operate on a private cloud today for a lot of our technologies, but even banks are moving some of their infrastructure to cloud. So I think this is happening, though the pace could be faster, but I think that'll happen with time.
Yeah, that's good to know. We are almost on top of the hour, so just wanted to talk about one more point. So we spoke about ROI, right? And I was speaking to one of our customers. He's the CFO, and he made a very profound statement. He said, so I asked him that what does it take for you to basically sign a project, right? He's a CFO, and he said to me two things. One is the ROI, and which we spoke about, and the other one is LOF. And I said, what is LOF? And he said, LOF is leap of faith. So that it's very interesting and true. We need to have leap of faith to basically try new things, right? So on that note, I would like to thank you both of you. It was really interesting session for me. I learned a lot engaging with you both. So thank you all, and over back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumeet. Thank you.
So that was quite an interesting session, and we had a lot of questions coming in. So I'd like to thank our speakers, Mr. Sumeet, Mr. Arvind, and Mr. Umesh, for joining in, and for all our delegates to be a part of this session. Thank you once again. I hope all of you enjoyed the session, and we look forward to having you for upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Thanks.